And I firmly believe that in order to successfully help someone or understand someone, you have to have first servant leadership for one. You have to really be able to understand who that person is, because what's rational to you may be irrational to me,
Yeah.
but I have to understand why it's rational to you. And that goes back to understanding your inherited financial narratives, understanding your walls in, walls out, understanding your internal and external ecosystem.
Financial independence,
freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hello and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. People come on to help us who are doing amazing things, and that certainly is how I would describe Dr. Joaquin Wallace. He is a financial empowerment strategist, a behavioral finance educator, and author of this amazing new book, Generational Wealth Begins with Generational Knowledge. And don't make the mistake that I made of thinking that you understand the whole book from its title, because it's going to surprise you. He's the creator of the 7-stage generational wealth model, which is a framework that bridges financial literacy, emotional healing, and legacy planning. Dr. Wallace also hosts the New Wealth Wave podcast, where he explores the intersection of money, mindset, and generational information. And we certainly talk a lot about money and mindset on the show. So for that and many other reasons, I'm excited that you're here with us today, Hakeem.
You know,
Joaquin.
yeah, no problem.
I may screw your name up like 14 times. So just say, Chris, get a grip.
Chris, get a grip. Listen,
Thank you.
you know, when I was younger, so the funny story about that is that, you know, when I was younger and when a substitute teacher would come into the classroom and they couldn't say my name. And so I would always say it before, because they go by alphabetical, you know, to get to the W's. And I knew exactly when my name was coming up.
Yeah.
And it would get to whoever the name was before me at the time. And I'll say, Joaquin. He said, oh, okay, Joaquin. Well, they'll say, Joachim, Hakeem. I say, no, Joaquin. Now it's a very, you know, the name is used I hear the name all the time now,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
coming up in the 70s, no, that was a name that wasn't frequented and used a lot. So I'm used to it, you know, and also, you know, one of my inherited financial narratives, my trauma and anxiety, we're going to talk about, is when bill collectors used to call wanting their payments for their credit cards, and they would say, is Joachim there? I said, no, he's not here. You got the wrong number. That's when I knew it was a bill collector, right?
Exactly. When they can't pronounce your name, you know
they
you
couldn't
want to
pronounce
talk
my
to
name.
them.
I knew exactly who it was. No, you got the wrong number and hung up. So, you know, I'm used to it. You just call me Dr. Wallace. That's fine. Just say Dr. Wallace and we're good.
Exactly. You know, one of my friends is actually going for her PhD, and that's how we keep her on track, like, because she's getting discouraged and, you know, having trouble with her stuff. And I said, I just go paging Dr. Wallace, paging Dr. Wallace. And she's also going for a PhD, not a medical doctor, but I still love that, you know, visual.
That's great. It's great. You know, I was on a podcast recently, and, you know, regardless of what happens, you know, in my life today, they're always going to call me Dr. Wallace. So whether good, bad, or indifferent, you know, I can be, you know, on the wrong side of the law, and they would say, well, you know, we have Dr. Wallace, you're up. You know? So they always remember me as Dr. Wallace. So it doesn't matter on the right side of the law or the wrong side of the law. I will always be referred to as Dr. Wallace.
That's one of those great things they can't take away from you.
They can't take that away from me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, what it sounds like from what you just said, that you were not born a millionaire. You're not passing on some secrets that were given to you at birth. How did you come across, or what's the road that took you to the place where you felt like you had something you needed to share with everyone in your book?
You know, that's an interesting question. So I was in my former life, you know, I was an athlete and I didn't make it professionally. Well, I wound up to make a long story short, I had a nonprofit in 1997 called Project Transition. It was a welfare to work program. We got a lot of accolades, won a ton of awards, fellowship recommendations, and which was great. And from there, that ended it. So I was 1997 to 2003, and then I was always coaching high school basketball during that time, though. And then with the change of administration, because the business that I created, the nonprofits, was during former President Bill Clinton. And so the change in the White House, as you know, change in administration, a change in strategy. So you go
Yeah.
from a Democratic to a Republican administration. So it left the grassroots to was you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, right? And so you went from that. So the grassroots was no longer sexy, as they say. But the program was really a successful program. I wrote a book. My first book was written about my nonprofit. And so I started coaching. Like I said, I was always coaching, and then I had a chance to become a head coach at the collegiate level. So I took that. I always loved coaching. So it's kind of perfect timing, so to speak. And I was coaching from 2003 to 2014. And I wound up retiring from the coaching circles, and then got into the broadcasting side, which I still do today. But I needed a job. So it's interesting because when you believe that I have all this have this experience, I've done these things in life. I mean, you name it, I've done it. But I couldn't get a job, believe it or not. And so I wound up taking my first job in insurance as an Aflac insurance salesman,
Wow.
supplemental insurance, right?
Working for the duck.
Working for the duck in 2014. I learned a lot about working for the duck. I learned the importance of supplemental insurance. So supplemental insurance is extremely important. Really didn't understand it at the time. My second job from there was I was an insurance agent for Prudential. And that's what got me on the road of financial, just understanding insurances and things of that nature. Later on, I became a financial planner, advisor. Fast forward, 2025, 2025, I resigned from Prudential LPL. But during that time, in 2024, believe it or not, I because I still was doing work in terms of financial empowerment in regards to credit and things of that nature. I was working with a company called Operation Hope as a financial well-being coach, as well as an advisor for Prudential. So I was on both sides of the fence. I was dealing with some higher class income individuals and lower earning income individuals as well. So I was on both sides of the fence. So I created a model around 2023. It's the 7-stage generational wealth model based upon my relationships and conversations I had with many of my clients. And one of the outlying factors that I realized that, many of our decisions that we make in regards to money is based upon our relationship with money. Something we don't really talk about. We're talking about it now as becoming a very oversaturated market, but during that time, it was something no one really talked about. So I created a model, the 7-stage generational wealth model, very in the embryonic stages. At the time, it was the 6 stages of the generational wealth model. And then we added the 7th stage.
Yeah.
But so the model itself is focused on 3 areas: the past, present, and the future. And what I found with working with both sides of the clients, that many of their decisions, again, was based upon their emotion, the relationship they had with money, including myself. And I knew at that point, it really didn't matter on how much education someone would receive in regards to let me help you with financial literacy, the basics, understanding credit, reducing debt, and increasing your savings. Education really didn't matter, because at some point, regardless of what happened, something would trigger them and they would always revert back to what their thought pattern was prior to them meeting you. So during the process, it may take 6 to 8 months. We're sitting there and we're getting their credit in place. They're saving money and they're reducing their debt. You don't hear from them for a while. And then they'll call you back. Hey, I fell off. Could you help me? Something happened. So that was in terms of the lower income individuals. On the higher income individuals, I found that many of their decisions was based upon their childhood and their environment as well. So a lot of decisions, very risk averse, loss aversion, things of that nature. And so analysis by paralysis, by not investing in things of that nature, simply because they would always go back to, I don't want to go back to where it was when, I was growing up. So that, it was always a reflective point. And so when the model was created, it basically suggested that stage one of the model says that your internal and external ecosystem, internally, walls in, externally, walls out. Walls in is everything you learn inside of the home. Walls out is everything I see outside of the home, which ultimately shapes who you are, which creates your inherited financial narratives and your encoded financial behaviors. So that's the past, stage one. Stage two is your financial genetic code, which speaks upon financial anxiety and financial trauma. So a financial genetic code basically suggests that who we are, who you are, who I am, is based upon our walls in and walls out, an internal, external ecosystem, inherited financial narratives, encoded financial behaviors, good, bad, or indifferent. That's who we are. Now, the difference with a financial genetic code, you can reprogram the code. However, you have to get help. You have to have conversations. That's something we talked about earlier before we came on, is that money is a topic that no one really speaks about. They speak about everything else, but not about money. And they'll tell you, oh, my foot hurt. I went to the doctor said this, but they will never say anything about their money because it's really held close to the heart. And so
I think
stage,
there's a lot of embarrassment. I mean, let's talk about that for
yes,
just 1 second. I do think that there's a lot of people are embarrassed if they're not making enough money, but they're also sometimes embarrassed when they're making more than the people they're talking to. So they feel like, I don't want to, to make you feel bad. I don't want to, make you think I'm bragging if I'm talking about my finances. And then at the same token, like, I'm going to drive this nice car so that you won't know that, I'm eating ramen noodles for every single day. So whether you're a have or have not, sometimes there is that um, discomfort and embarrassment around the topic of, really delving deep into, like, oh, if I tell my coworkers that I got a raise, then they're going to be jealous and I'm going to change my work relationship, right? I mean, I guess I don't want to just talk about it. I want to ask you, why do you have a feel for why that is?
well, a lot of it's imposter syndrome as well. It was hard for me to have people that acknowledge me as a doctor because of the environment that I grew up in. As you mentioned earlier, around a lot of family and friends, I appear to be the smartest person in the room. But in
You may be.
actuality, well, I may be, but in actuality, that's something I don't wear on my sleeve. And oftentimes than not, people do judge you based upon what your appearance is. And so when you look at the model, what the model suggests that stages one and two are past our financial genetic code. As you can see, here's my shirt, financial genetic code, trademarked. But what it basically suggests that, again, our inherited financial narratives and encoded financial behaviors create our financial genetic code. Stage three of the model is the present, meaning that financial healing. Financial healing is so important. We have to reprogram our financial genetic code, which is based on stages two and one. Now, I loved how you mentioned about the shame, because stage four is financial edification, which focuses on financial literacy and inclusion. One thing that we do know, that the two areas that is becoming very, very driven by topic, the narrative now, is financial literacy and generational wealth. The two topics you hear the most. And it's becoming an oversaturated, over fragmented market because everyone's talking about it. But here's my theory on financial literacy. And this is what I learned with dealing with, as I mentioned earlier, 1,000 heirs, 100 heirs, millionaires, and no heirs, right? And so dealing with those individuals, haven't had the billionaire yet, but those four individuals, what I've found is that financial literacy can also be financial shaming, simply because financial literacy places you and puts you in a cookie cutter. And I'm going to create this program. And if you aren't able to capitulate within this program or work within this program, then something's wrong with you. And I firmly believe that in order to successfully help someone or understand someone, you have to have first servant leadership for one. You have to really be able to understand who that person is, because what's rational to you may be irrational to me,
Yeah.
but I have to understand why it's rational to you. And that goes back to understanding your inherited financial narratives, understanding your walls in, walls out, understanding your internal and external ecosystem, knowing what your financial genetic code is. That's important. We can't assume, we know what they say the word about assuming, that everyone is the same. So that's financial edification, that's stage 4. But that's literacy. But inclusion suggests that now here's an opportunity for us to educate ourselves, understand the importance of life insurance, understand the importance of long-term care, disability insurance, 401k, 457, 403bs, your qualified, non-qualified, Roths, traditional IRAs, investing, purchasing of homes. All of that is important in terms of the inclusion side. But most of us, and I was one of those individuals, didn't participate really in my qualified plans at work simply because I didn't trust the system. Goes back to my stage 1, my inherited financial narratives, my encoded financial behaviors. And you have more people who don't really participate in those programs because of lack of trust.
Yeah.
And so if I'm speaking about financial literacy, yes, we're talking about the 3 basic components of it all. But again, we have to first understand why that person is the way that person is and the way they operate, and understanding their internal and external ecosystem is important, which is their past, which is the stage 1, stage 2 of the model itself.
And I think it's important for them to understand it too, right? That the fact
Absolutely.
that, you feel this way, it's not a fact. It's something, you know what I mean? Like you think, okay, this for example, the 401k example, like putting money in the stock market. I know tons of people who have lost money in the stock market. So you believe it's a fact that you'd lose money, and until you realize that you believe that because of something that happened in your past, you can't take it out and look at it and say, well, maybe it's not a fact, maybe it's actually an opinion. Has anybody in the world ever made money with stock investing? If they have, maybe it's possible, right? And then you can, that's until you can question it, you can't change it
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
individually, right? Because so like what you're saying, the person who's helping you has to understand it, but you also have to understand it.
and the key to that is, in my book, I tabled 20 inherited financial narratives, which you're speaking of, which I call the scar tissue narrative.
Yeah.
It's something that's happened. Although you were healed, you were cut. You look at your body, you see the wound. You
Yeah.
may be healed, but subconsciously, you always go back to when that cut occurred. You can
Yeah,
remember the date
exactly.
and
That's a
time.
really great, analogy,
Right. You can remember the date and time, where it happened, how it happened. And that's
right?
the same thing that you carry. Those are those inherited financial narratives that you carry with you. But here is one area that I firmly believe. So stage 5 of the model is the future, which is financial well-being. We all are trying to get to financial well-being. We all are trying to have this soft landing, because financial health is financial wealth. But the narrative now speaks of financial literacy and generational wealth. My argument is that generational wealth isn't for you and I, it's for our beneficiaries.
Right.
But here's the key. If I do not fully participate in stage 4 in terms of the inclusion and get to the future stage 5, which is financial well-being, there is no generational wealth because I have nothing to transfer.
Right.
And we also know that 10% of the earnings that you earn will be remaining with your grandchildren. So is generational knowledge more important than the assets? I believe it goes hand in hand, and may be a little bit more important because many of us are not in position to receive the assets or the blessings simply because we haven't done the right thing in regards to stage 6 of the model, which is generational knowledge, which creates our financial footprints, to stage 7, which is generational wealth. So that's the model in itself. Now, the great thing about the model, you can go clockwise, you can go counterclockwise, depending on where you're at that time. Where your feet are at that time determines your present day. You may be in stage 5, that may be your present, but something can happen that can quickly quickly transfer you back to stage one, where you go back to your inherited financial narratives.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that some type of fear or trauma jumps in, and then you're like, you're not always progressing toward that beautiful ending. You sometimes are just like falling right off the wagon and ending right back on your back, flat on your back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you can go clockwise, you can go counterclockwise. So it's a very organic model. It's not static. And so that's my argument in regards to financial literacy. It's very static.
Yeah.
It's infinite, but we know it's more holistic because you have to take into account who the person is. Like you and I are totally two different people. You and I have two different financial genetic codes, which is important when you get in a partnership, marriage, business.
Absolutely.
We know that many of the issues come to part in a marriage is usually driven around money, and that's a byproduct. You have two people who are two different financial genetic codes, but it's something that they don't talk about until they are married, and they start to discover and recognize, oh, well, here's some issues that I didn't know that was underlying issues that I never knew that you carried with you. And it may be scar tissue narrative. It may be a variety of the other narratives that are in the book, so to speak. And you start identifying and say, well, I didn't know that. Well, maybe that's why the therapy is so important, that you have to talk it out. The two of you talk it out, then you can come to a better agreement. We don't have financial infidelity with the couples or marriages and things of that nature. You have that
Yeah.
oftentimes, and not you don't find out till the person passes on, right? So
Yeah.
you have all this going on because of the trust or just holding everything close to the vest.
Well, and it's even what you were saying before, that your DNA is not, if you haven't,
Genetic code, financial
sorry,
genetic code,
your genetic code.
it's genetic code.
Thank you. Your genetic code, it feels like the truth to you. So when someone comes into your life and they look at money a different way, you think they're wrong, right? Because the way what I was raised in, that's not subjective. That's the fact. That's the truth. That's the way money works. And then you come over and you start telling me something else. Like, you got to straighten out. You got to figure yourself out, because, right, what I know is right and what you know is wrong. And that is where a lot of, I think, issues come from with, because you can have money in your relationship, but there are other relationships, like a business relationship, right? You go into business with someone and you each think you know the truth about how money works. And then you get into all these clashes and stuff. And until you recognize that it's just been your journey, but it's not like some fact, that's some irrefutable fact.
Yeah, which is true, because think about it. Your truth is your truth. My truth is my truth.
Right.
And regardless of how much we may disagree, you're going to stand 10 toes down on your truth.
Right.
I'm going to stand 10 toes down on my truth. That's why it's important for me to understand what's rational to you may be irrational to me. And what's irrational to me may be irrational to you. You say, okay, what's going on? And so when I created the book, I created it with two people in mind, with two types of people in mind: the regular person like you and I, and the 5 financial professionals, which are the financial educator, the therapist, the counselor, the advisor, and the planner. Those 5 individuals consistently are in some sort of relationship with a client. And I believe unsubconsciously, subconsciously, that we transfer our inherited financial narratives, our financial genetic code to our clients, unbeknownst to us,
Right.
because we're in the business because of something. We're
Right.
all in the business
Exactly.
because of something. Right. So if I'm in
Right.
an insurance business, maybe I didn't take advantage of it. I'm learning more. So I'm here to help people on insurance.
Yeah.
If I'm in an investment business, I want to help people become more smarter, more educated in investing. Something may have happened, some scar tissue narrative, something happened. You may have
Right.
watched it
Right.
with your parents, 2008. Many things may have happened. Say, I'm driving. This is what I want to do. So unconsciously, I can transfer my own inherited financial narratives, encoded financial behaviors, my financial genetic code in our one-on-one discussion.
Right. And that's
And
right. And you're limiting your client, right?
and you're limiting your clients, but in your mind, you're giving them the correct
Right.
information, because that's how you see things. You're not really listening to what they're saying. So, well, no, that's not rational. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And they trust you with the information that you're giving them, correct?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
sometimes, right, I'm giving them what I would do, how
Right.
I view things, which isn't correct. And so I firmly believe that, based on what the reviews are on Amazon and people are telling me, is that when they're in the financial professionals that they are, they're learning a lot about themselves. And I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. If you are a financial professional or in any industry, and if you don't believe that you need coaching, that you can always learn something, that you are really limiting yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's important for us to continue to learn, continue to evolve, because then I can become a better servant leader to my client base.
Yeah.
Many financial professionals, or in any industry, they may say, well, I know everything. Yeah, it doesn't apply to me. Why would I know this? I've done this. I have my certifications. I have my credentials. I don't need any more. Well, that's not true,
Right.
because at the end of the day, you are interacting with people, and you have to understand who they are, where they're coming from, what lens they're looking at it from. But
Yeah.
again, what lens are you looking at it from?
Right.
Why are you doing this type of work? What do you need to know about yourself? And this is the biggest uh, common denominator that I'm reading from the comments from financial professionals that's reading this book, saying, "Hey, I'm a better person. I'm a better advisor today because of this, and I'm continuing to use this in my toolbox, and I'm referring it to my clients as well as a must read book for them as well too."
Yeah, that's fabulous. It's amazing. Well, amazing might not be the right word, but it's wonderful that you've got that insight and recognize that, because obviously you're putting yourself in that category, right? You're recognizing I see that I have a bias, and I can't unlive the life that brought me to this point, and I have to be aware of the fact that that's influencing the advice that I'm giving to people. And I'm sort of laughing inside, because I've interviewed a lot of financial planners for this show, and oftentimes their advice is completely different, and it's almost always different than what I would say to somebody. Right?
Absolutely.
Right? And so they can't all be right.
We can't all be right, because if we have a fiduciary responsibility, we all can't be right. But here's what's important though. If I firmly understand what your inherited financial narratives are, and you're encoded, so you have the why, which is the inherited financial narratives, or the action is the encoded financial behavior. So here's my why, here's my action. Both of those create my financial genetic code. So this is who I am. The beauty of it all is that you and I can change the code. We can reprogram the code through conversation, through therapy, and truly having an understanding of, what do I need? Many clients go to their financial advisor or financial professional. For instance, I want a financial plan, so I need you to write me a financial plan. Well, okay, I can do that, but you may need you may need some financial education. You may need some financial therapy, because regardless of what I say, you're still going to be very apprehensive in putting the plan in place. Why is that? Well, let's flush that out. Let's figure out why that you are having a hard time utilizing the suggestions that I'm giving you, or you've received somewhere else. Why is that? Well, because I have my stage one. It was definitely has some walls in, walls out, internal, external. Again, the inherited financial narratives, encoded financial behaviors. Here, my financial genetic code, but I never had the financial healing. So regardless of what I'm telling you, you're still going to revert back or not execute what we're speaking of anyway. So you may not need a financial planner or advisor. You may need you may need to have a therapist, or you may need to have an educator, just for you to understand what you're asking: bonds, stocks, EFTs, mutual funds, it's important to know life insurance, what it is, the types of life insurance it is, why disability insurance is important, long-term care. I need to educate you on that piece first because then you can come to the table with some qualified questions versus just taking on the first thing that you're hearing. And you hear that a lot of that today. People will say, oh, you get IUL. This is why you need to get IUL. And people, people call you, hey, I need to get IUL. What do I need to do to get IUL? And the first thing you say, do you understand what IUL is? Well, no, I was watching this on TikTok and they were saying that I need to get this IUL. It's like, okay, but it may not be for you. Well, it was just say I can borrow from it. Well, no, okay, let's kind of walk through that process because it might not be for you. So it's important to understand it. Maybe we need to get some term insurance first where you can get solidified first. Then you can get some sort of IUL or VUL, something along those lines. But you always have to say this to clients too. Well, a majority of people that sell IUL is because it's a fixed product. A fixed product means that you can have a basic state license. But when you get into the VULs, you have to have a broker dealer sponsorship. You have to have a different type of license. So it's important. A lot of people don't have those licenses. They may have the basic insurance license, which then allows them to basically sell fixed products, which IULs are a fixed product. So you have to be able to educate them on that as well, too, because that may not be the best for you. The VUL may be an opportunity. What's the difference between the two? So again, that's why understanding the 5 professionals is important for everyone. Then they can attack it the right way.
Yeah. So just for folks who maybe don't watch TikTok, will you define the IUL and the BUL?
So index universal lives, basically what insurance companies provide is based upon the index, the 500. And it has a floor and it has a ceiling. Basically, it suggests that you won't lose any money because you had a floor and then you have a ceiling. This is the most you can make. But again, not every company is participating at 100%. So they may be participating at 80%, meaning that let's say at the end of the year, if you're using point to point versus over 3 years, at point to point, if it's 8%, for instance, S&P 8%, index 8% at the end of the year. And if they're participating at 80%, that means that you are eligible for 6% of that, not the 8,
right?
Which is a big difference.
Absolutely.
And insurance companies can change their participation rate because it's a contract every year. So that's important to understand.
Absolutely.
A VUL allows you to invest into the market, so mutual funds. So you can actually grab a couple of portfolios and craft it the right way. You have more risk, but there's more upside. So there's not a ceiling. You can go as high as 25, 30%, whatever the case may be, or you can lose money as well too. You have more risk. The risk is passed on to the end user, but it gives you a little bit more opportunity to make a little bit more money, but you're not subject to ceilings and or floors. Some people like that, some people don't. So it depends on who you are and what your
where you're coming
consumer
from.
is. Exactly.
Yeah. And your age, and I suppose a lot of other factors as well.
Right. Your age and being able to articulate that for one. But again, depending on their license, they may be only able to sell a fixed product, such as that.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot I don't know. A lot more that I don't know that I do know about.
You learned something today. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. I learned a
Yeah.
lot today talking with you. I appreciate
it.
So what kinds of things are you still working with clients one-on-one or as a group in groups?
Yes, I'm still working with clients one-on-one and groups as well. I love doing presentations. That's what I enjoy doing. I love doing family presentations. I think that's pretty cool. Get the families in and we go over everything because you get some real good dialogue. You kind of figure out what their goals and objectives are, and you can kind of put a plan together to allow them to achieve that.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. I'm a real estate, I help people with real estate investing and buying their first home or buying their first investment property. And there's no feeling like that, right? When you sit down with somebody and you see the lights coming on and they're getting excited and you have given them some information that's going to potentially change the whole trajectory of their life, It's
Absolutely.
It's an amazing feeling. I can see why you enjoy doing that.
It's a great feeling, and the book is a byproduct of that. I wanted to write a book that was evergreen in topic, that will never go out of style, so to speak.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, the market now is becoming very oversaturated in a fragmented market. So what do you do to differentiate yourself from everyone else that is out there, which was important to me.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to you earlier, when I first I wrote my book proposal to several publishing companies, they all told me no, and I
But
was hurt.
but you're in good company there, Joaquin, because a lot of authors, especially first-time authors, here's my 97 rejection slips before somebody finally said yes. But you didn't wait for that. You just said, screw y'all, I'm just gonna do it
Yep. I
myself.
said I'm gonna do it myself, and which is great, Amazon bestseller within 30 days.
That's
We're in
fantastic.
97. We're 90 days. Will be on the 27th of September, which is great. We sold some copies, which is obviously we've sold some copies. Yeah, I enjoy the testimonials that I'm reading on Amazon, which is great because that I know who read the book and who didn't read the book because of the testimonials. And I would say 99% of the people have read the book
That's
because
great.
everyone has their own personal take on it.
But yeah, so just about the 1%, it may be that they read the book, but that they weren't ready to receive it. So
Well, yeah, I would say that. Well, in the book itself, I do state that take your time with reading the book because it's a journey. It's not a one sitting read.
yeah,
That's what I've learned, and that's how I wanted it to be written. And again, a lot of the testimonials, the feedback is people are continuing to go back to it. After each chapter, we have self assessments that you go through and do the self assessments. You come back. So each chapter gives you a self assessment. You're able to go back and kind of revisit it again. I'm finding that families are buying the book and having like Friday night readings, like a book club within their own families,
it's fabulous.
which is great. It's an educational book. At the same time, you're learning something. We're not talking about specific purchasing anything. So when you hear the title Generational Wealth Begins with Generational Knowledge, basically that's what the book is suggesting. And the title, the great thing about not having a publisher is that I had more control. I had more time. I had more words. So the book is like 80,000 words. Usually they kind of limit you like 60,000, and they put you on a limit in terms of how when they need it back. They need it back within 6-7 months.
Right, yeah.
You maybe get 2-3 edits possibly. I finished writing the book February. We started in August, finished it in February. We edited the book, and I'm not exaggerating, from March until June 25th. The,
Wow.
the editing, probably rewrote it between 10 to 15 times. Just constantly rewriting it, constantly retooling it again, making
Okay.
sure that it's saying the right thing, how I wanted it to say. The title of the book, the cover of the book, I'm going to show you the cover.
Yeah, show me the cover. It's a beautiful book.
So here's the cover.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I'm going to give you, there's subliminal messages on this cover here.
Okay, tell us what they are.
Okay. So let's see. Could you hear me? All right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. All right.
See the
So
DNA,
okay.
see the
That's the
DNA helix. Yeah.
that's the genetic code.
Yeah.
Here is your inherited financial narratives, your roots. Here's the limbs. Around the outside, you have these phrases. Those are the phrases that would either allow you to have generational wealth or negate you from getting generational wealth. And these are neurons, not leaves. And so, which was great because again, I was able to craft it. So if you look at the title of the book cover, it's telling you what's inside of it.
Excellent. I love it.
It's a
I
great
think it
book.
was inspired, and it like you feel like you channeled it, or do you feel like you worked it, or did you channel it?
It was a combination of both. So true story. So my granddaughter stayed at our house on August 22nd. I think it was 22nd, August 22nd, 2022. And God gave me a vision. She got up at 5 a.m. I went and got, because she slept on the couch. Got and took care of her. As soon as I got her squared away, God gave me a vision. Said, "You're going to write a book." He gave me 6 chapters. I then took my iPhone, put the chapters inside of my notes, and that was the start of it all. Now, the title of the book he gave me, the 6 chapters, is not the same, but it sparked the
Yeah.
idea. So I was pretty much hell bent saying, I'm going to write this book. Regardless of what anyone said, I was given a vision to write this book. So all the no's and the discouragement, I said, I'm going to write this book. And over time, what happened was the model came into play, how I wanted the model to look, the formulating of that. Generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. The title was a byproduct of me doing a workshop. Someone came on LinkedIn, said generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. Dr. Joaquin Wallace said that. I said, I'm gonna trademark that tomorrow. The next day, I trademarked that. We copywritten the model, trademarked that, and then based upon that, I had another vision in terms of the financial genetic code. Now it's in the model, but I felt that because that was a name that was resonating, people would read the book and say, the financial genetic code, my financial genetic code. I never thought of that. I never heard of that. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what, we're going to trademark that as well and start really, creating curriculum around that as
Yeah.
well too. And that's the process that we're in right now. So that's why I have the shirts right here.
Exciting.
And on the
That's
back, it has a definition of what the financial genetic code is.
nice. So, Joaquin, I feel like, first of all, I feel like we could talk for a really long time.
Just a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. It's a lot of great information. But I think we're actually getting really close to the end. So I want to make sure that I want to just make sure I ask you, what do you want people to walk away with? Like, if there's one thing after listening to us for an hour, what do they want to what do you want to make sure that people walk away with? And obviously, they should buy the book, which all those links will be in the show notes. But, is if there's like one message that you just want to make sure that everybody remembers and walks away with, what would that be?
Well, I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
I'm going to give you two. The first one is generational wealth begins with generational knowledge. Regardless of regardless of the assets that you have accumulated, if you have not successfully transferred the generational knowledge, then you are in a position where all of that hard work will be lost. That's the first thing. The second thing is your financial genetic code. Each of us has our own unique financial genetic code, which is based upon our inherited financial narratives and our coded financial behaviors, the why and the action. We have the ability to reprogram and rewrite our financial genetic code. So it's important for us to first recognize it, acknowledge it, and start the process of healing to reprogram it, good, bad, or indifferent, because your financial genetic code is going to be key in terms of your legacy that you're going to leave to create your financial footprints to generational wealth.
Absolutely. That really resonates. I appreciate that. All right. So now, now we just have to applaud and then say thank you. And I just want to say, Dr. Wallace, Joaquin, no, Joaquin, is that,
No,
did I get
yeah,
it
no,
right
you're
that
no.
time? And then I thought I
I,
did it
yeah,
wrong.
I'd have corrected you right. No, you said it twice, a couple of times. You said it right a couple of times, twice.
And when I overthink it, that's when things go horribly wrong. Thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing all the information, for letting people who didn't already know about your book, letting them know about it. And, like I said, I'm sure we could talk for another couple of hours, but I'm sure you have other things to do. And I think we need to be respectful of your time. And yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, listeners, for listening. I think in addition to going out and clicking the link and buying the book from Amazon or from wherever else you might find it, you really, I would like you to think right now of, I don't know, at least 5 people who you know who who are not millionaires, who are more like maybe no heirs or 1,000 heirs or 100 heirs, and to, could really use this information, and forward this episode to them, because they will thank you and you'll be a hero and we'll both thank you as well. So have a wonderful day.